She paid me to be her husband, but when I tried to leave, she begged me to stay. The proposition. Jake Morrison wiped the sweat from his forehead. As he closed the restaurant for the night, Morrison's diner wasn't much to look at. Chipped formica, tables, flickering neon sign, and coffee that regulars claimed could strip paint, but it was his. Well, technically the bank owned most of it, but Jake had been making payments for 3 years straight. The bell above the door chimed as he was counting the register. He looked up, ready to tell whoever it was that they were closed, but the words died in his throat. The woman standing in his doorway looked like she'd stepped out of a magazine. Designer coat, perfectly styled auburn hair, and shoes that probably cost more than Jake made in a month. She clutched a leather purse against her chest, her knuckles white with tension. "I'm sorry. We're closed," Jake said, but she didn't move. "Are you Jake Morrison?" Her voice was soft, refined, with just a hint of desperation underneath. "Depends. Who's asking?" She took a deep breath. "My name is Victoria Hamilton. I need to hire you." Jake set down the cash he'd been counting. "Lady, I run a diner, not a catering service. And even if I did, I need you to be my husband." The words hung in the air between them. Jake stared at her, waiting for the punchline or the hidden camera crew. When neither appeared, he laughed a short, disbelieving sound. "Excuse me?" Victoria stepped closer, her composure cracking slightly. "I know how it sounds, but I'm serious. I need someone to pose as my husband for 6 months. I'm prepared to pay you $50,000. Jake's hands stilled on the register. $50,000 would cover his loan payments, the broken freezer, maybe even allow him to hire some help. But this had to be some kind of scam. "Why me?" he asked carefully. "Because you're not part of my world. No one would ever believe I'd marry someone like," she gestured vaguely at his worn apron and the humble surroundings. "Someone like what?" Poor color rose in her cheeks. "I didn't mean it like that. I meant someone genuine, someone who wouldn't be interested in my money or connections for their own gain." Jake leaned against the counter, studying her. She was beautiful, but there was something brittle about her, like expensive china with hairline cracks. "What's the catch?" "My grandfather's will stipulates that I must be married to inherit Hamilton Industries. I'm 28, and the board is breathing down my neck. If I don't marry by my 29th birthday, control of the company goes to my cousin Derek." Her voice turned bitter. "Derek would destroy everything my grandfather built. So find a real husband." I tried. The admission seemed to cost her. "Every man I've dated has been more interested in my portfolio than me. I can't trust anyone in my social circle. But you don't even know who I am." Jake did know, actually. Everyone in the city knew about Hamilton Industries and their reclusive heiress. But he didn't correct her. "What exactly would this arrangement involve? Living in my penthouse, attending social events, convincing people we're in love?" She paused. "Separate bedrooms." Of course, this would be strictly business, Jake thought. About his mounting bills, the notice from the bank, the dreams he'd given up when his parents died and left him the diner. And after 6 months, "We get divorced, you get your money, I get my company, everyone wins." He should say no. This was crazy, impossible, completely outside his world. But $50,000 was freedom. It was keeping the diner open, maybe even expanding. "I'll need to think about it." Victoria pulled a business card from her purse. "Call me tomorrow." "But Jake," she paused at the door. "I hope you'll say yes. I don't have any other options." After she left, Jake stood alone in his empty diner, holding her card. The reasonable thing would be to throw it away and forget this conversation ever happened. Instead, he found himself wondering what had made someone with everything sound so desperate for help. The contract. Jake's apartment above the diner seemed even smaller after spending the morning in Victoria's penthouse. Floor-to-ceiling windows overlooked the city, and the living room alone was bigger than his entire place. He felt like he was wearing his one good suit like a costume. "The contract is straightforward," Victoria said, sliding a thick document across her marble dining table. She'd traded yesterday's designer outfit for jeans and a sweater, but somehow still looked like she belonged in a magazine. 6 months, no physical intimacy, and complete discretion afterward. Jake scanned the legal jargon. "What about the wedding? Small ceremony. Just immediate family and a few close friends. My assistant has already found a venue. She poured coffee from a silver service that probably cost more than his car. We'll need to spend time together beforehand. Of course, people need to believe we fell in love. And how exactly do we do that? For the first time since he'd met her, Victoria looked uncertain. I'm not sure. I've never had to fake being in love before. Jake studied her face. Have you ever been in love? Really, once. In college. Her voice was soft. His name was Timothy. He was studying literature, wanted to be a writer. I thought he was different. What happened? He wasn't. She took a sip of coffee, composing herself. He sold our story to a tabloid after we broke up. Inside the Hamilton heiress's secret life. Made quite a bit of money, actually. Jake winced. I'm sorry, don't be. It taught me an important lesson. About trust. She straightened, back to business, which is why this arrangement is perfect. We both know exactly what we're getting. They spent the next hour going over details. Jake would move in immediately. They'd attend charity galas, business dinners, and family gatherings. Victoria's assistant had already created a backstory about how they'd met when Victoria started eating at his diner regularly. One more thing, Victoria said as Jake prepared to leave. My grandmother is flying in from Paris for the wedding. She's particular about family. Meaning, she'll try to figure out if you're after my money. She's very protective. Jake signed the contract and shook Victoria's hand. Her skin was soft, her grip firm but brief. When do I move in? Tonight, if possible. We're attending a gallery opening tomorrow, and I want you to meet some people first. As Jake packed his few belongings that evening, he wondered what he'd gotten himself into. 6 months pretending to be married to one of the richest women in the city. It felt like playing a role he wasn't qualified for. His phone buzzed with a text from Victoria. Thank you for doing this. I know it's unconventional, but I think we can help each other. Jake stared at the message for a long time before responding. See you tonight. The penthouse felt different when he arrived with his suitcase. Victoria showed him to a guest room that was bigger than his entire apartment, complete with a walk-in closet and marble bathroom. I had some clothes delivered, she said, gesturing to several shopping bags on the bed. For tomorrow night. I hope I guessed your size correctly. Jake opened one bag to find an expensive suit, still tagged. You didn't have to. Yes, I did. We need to look like we belong together. She paused in the doorway. Jake, what made you say yes? He thought about his answer carefully. The money, obviously. But also, you look like you needed help. I don't like seeing people trapped. Something flickered across her face, surprise. Maybe even gratitude. Well, thank you. For whatever reason. After she left, Jake stood by the window looking out at the city lights. Tomorrow he'd step into Victoria's world and pretend to be someone he wasn't. But as he thought about her expression, when she'd thanked him, he wondered if maybe she was pretending too. The Performanceth Gallery opening was everything Jake had expected and worse. Crystal chandeliers, servers with champagne flutes, and enough diamonds to fund a small country. Jake tugged at his tie, grateful for the expensive suit that at least made him look like he belonged. Remember, Victoria murmured as they approached a group of well-dressed couples. We've been dating for 8 months. You proposed last month at the diner after closing time, right? And I swept you off your feet with my charming personality and excellent meatloaf. Victoria's lips twitched the closest to a smile he'd seen from her. Something like that. The next 3 hours were a masterclass in performance art. Victoria introduced him to lawyers, CEOs, and socialites, each interaction a carefully choreographed dance. Jake found himself playing the role of the humble restaurant owner, who'd won the heart of the ice princess, and to his surprise, people seemed to buy it. So romantic, gushed Margaret Thornton, wife of some oil executive. How did you know Victoria was the one? Jake looked at Victoria, who was watching him with an unreadable expression. She came into the diner one night during a thunderstorm, he said, the lie coming easily, soaked to the skin, but she still said please and thank you to the waitress. Most people in her position would have demanded special treatment. She just wanted coffee and a quiet place to sit. That's our Victoria, Margaret said fondly. Always. So consider it. Later, as they walked to the car, Victoria was quiet. The performance had been exhausting, and Jake could see the tension in her shoulders. "You did well tonight," she said finally. "The thunderstorm story was a nice touch. Made it up on the spot. Though I bet you've never been caught in a thunderstorm. Without an umbrella in your life. You'd be surprised." She gave him a sideways look. "I wasn't always this sheltered." They rode home in comfortable silence, the city lights blurring past the windows. Jake found himself studying Victoria's profile, wondering about the woman beneath the designer clothes and careful composure. Over the next few weeks, they fell into a routine. Jake continued running the diner during the day while Victoria handled her business. Responsibilities. Evenings were spent at various social functions, playing their parts as the unlikely couple. Jake discovered that Victoria was funnier than she let on, especially when she was tired and her guard was down. She learned that he'd given up a scholarship to culinary school when his parents died, choosing instead to keep their small business alive. "Do you regret it?" she asked one evening as they sat on her balcony after another charity dinner. "Sometimes, but the diner was their dream first. It felt wrong to let it die just because they weren't here to see it succeed." Victoria was quiet for a long moment. "I used to want to be a teacher, elementary school. I loved working with kids, seeing their faces light up when they learned something new." "What stopped you, grandfather?" He said Hamilton Industries needed me more than a classroom full of children. She smiled sadly. He wasn't wrong. The company employs thousands of people. Their livelihoods depend on keeping it successful. But what about your livelihood? What about what makes you happy? She looked at him with surprise, as if the question had never occurred to her. I don't know. I haven't thought about what makes me happy in a long time." Their wedding was scheduled for the following week. As Jake lay in his too comfortable bed that night, he realized he was beginning to understand Victoria Hamilton. She wasn't the ice princess the tabloids painted her as. She was just someone who'd never learned that she had the right to want things for herself. The thought should have been comforting. Instead, it made everything more complicated. The wedding Jake's hands shook as he adjusted his bow tie for the third time. The small chapel Victoria had chosen was elegant, but understated, filled with white roses and soft candlelight. Through the window, he could see guests arriving Victoria's world in expensive suits and designer dresses. Second thoughts, Jake turned to find Victoria's grandmother, Evelyn Hamilton, standing in the doorway. At 78, she was still formidable, with sharp eyes that seemed to see everything. "Should I have them?" Jake asked. Evelyn smiled, an expression that transformed her severe features. "That depends. Are you marrying my granddaughter for her money?" Jake met her gaze steadily. "We both know this isn't a traditional marriage, Mrs. Hamilton. Please, call me Evelyn. And yes, Victoria told me about the arrangement." She stepped closer, studying his face. "But that doesn't answer my question. There are many ways to be motivated by money, Jake, some more honest than others." Before Jake could respond, Victoria's assistant knocked on the door. "5 minutes, Mr. Morrison." Evelyn squeezed Jake's arm. "For what it's worth, I think you're good for her. She's been different since you arrived, more present." The ceremony was beautiful and felt completely surreal. Victoria looked stunning in a simple cream dress. That probably cost more than most people's cars. They'd written their own vows, carefully crafted lies about love and commitment that sounded convincing to everyone, except themselves. "Do you, Victoria, take Jake to be your lawfully wedded husband?" the officiant asked. "I do." Victoria's voice was steady, but Jake caught the slight tremor in her hands as she slipped the ring onto his finger. "And do you, Jake, take Victoria to be your lawfully wedded wife?" Jake looked into Victoria's eyes, seeing something there he hadn't noticed before: vulnerability, maybe even fear. "I do." The kiss was brief, professional, but the applause that followed was genuine. They'd done it. For the next 6 months, they were husband and wife. The reception was held at Victoria's penthouse, transformed into an elegant party space. Jake played his part, accepting congratulations and telling the story of their whirlwind romance. But he found himself watching Victoria more than he should, noticing how she lit up when talking to her grandmother, How she laughed at her cousin Derek's jokes despite clearly disliking him. Quite a performance, Derek said, appearing at Jake's elbow with 2 glasses of champagne. He was handsome in a plastic way, with the kind of smile that never reached his eyes. I have to admit, I didn't think Victoria had it in her. Had what in her? This whole charade. Though I suppose $50,000 is a small price to pay to keep control of the company. Jake's blood ran cold. I don't know what you're talking about. Derek's smile widened. Come now, Jake. We both know this marriage is about as real as Victoria's tan. The question is, what are you planning to do with the information you're gathering? I'm not gathering information. Of course you are, living in her home, attending board meetings as her husband, learning about company finances. It's actually quite clever. I might have underestimated my dear cousin. Jake set down his champagne glass with deliberate care. I think you have. Have I? We'll see. 6 months is a long time to maintain a lie, especially when real feelings start getting involved. Derek's eyes glittered with malice. And they will, Jake. It's inevitable. The question is what you'll do when they do. After Derek walked away, Jake stood alone on the balcony, his mind racing. Had Victoria told her cousin about their arrangement? Or had Derek figured it out on his own? There you are. Victoria appeared beside him, having changed into a simpler dress for the reception. I saw you talking to Derek. What did he want? Jake studied her face, looking for signs of deception. He knows. Victoria's composure cracked for just a moment. Knows what? About us. About the arrangement. She was quiet for a long moment, staring out at the city lights. Derek's always been perceptive and vindictive. He'll use this if he can. Will he? Victoria turned to face him fully. Jake, I need you to know something. This marriage may have started as a business arrangement, but I would never do anything to hurt you. Whatever Derek implied, he didn't imply anything. He stated it outright, that I'm here to spy on you, to gather information for him or someone else. The hurt that flashed across Victoria's face was unmistakable. You think I'm using you? Jake realized he'd been holding his breath. Are you? No. The word was fierce, immediate. God. No, or Jake, this arrangement may be fake, but my respect for you isn't. Neither is my. She stopped herself. You're what? Victoria looked away. Nothing. We should get back to the party. But as they walked back inside, Jake found himself thinking about Derek's words. 6 months was a long time to maintain a lie, especially when real feelings were starting to get involved. The truth, 3 months into their marriage, Jake realized he was in trouble. It started with small things: bringing Victoria coffee in the morning without being asked, staying up late to hear about her difficult board meetings, feeling proud when she laughed at his jokes. Somewhere between the charity galas and quiet dinners at home, the lines between performance and reality had blurred. The revelation came on a Tuesday evening when Victoria arrived home from work, looking defeated. Her hair was disheveled, her makeup smudged, and she kicked off her heels with a frustrated sigh. Bad day. Jake asked from the kitchen where he was preparing dinner. Derek's been spreading rumors about us, about the marriage being fake. She slumped against the counter. Some of the board members are asking questions. Jake set down his knife. What kind of questions? Whether we're really living as husband and wife, whether the marriage is legitimate. She rubbed her temples. They're talking about demanding proof. What kind of proof? Victoria's cheeks flushed. The kind that would require us to actually act like a married couple, in every sense. The kitchen fell silent except for the sound of simmering pasta sauce. Jake turned off the burner and faced her fully. Victoria, I need to tell you something. She looked up, something fragile in her expression. What? This stopped being just business for me a long time ago. The words hung between them like a confession. Victoria's eyes widened, and for a moment, Jake thought she might run. Instead, she stepped closer. Jake, I know this wasn't part of the deal, he continued quickly. I know you hired me to play a role, not to actually fall for you, but I can't help it. You're not the ice princess everyone thinks you are. You're kind and funny, and so damn smart it takes my breath away. You worry about your employees. You remember the names of every server at every restaurant we visit. And you cry during commercials about rescue dogs. Victoria's hand flew to her mouth. You notice that? I notice everything about you. The way you bite your lip when you're thinking. How you always order dessert, but never finish it. The fact that you keep pictures of your parents on your desk even though you never talk about them. Jake took a deep breath. I'm in love with you, Victoria. The real you, not the performance. Tears spilled down her cheeks. Jake, you don't understand. I can't what? Love me back. He tried to keep the hurt out of his voice. Because the way you look at me sometimes makes me think maybe you do. I do. The words came out as a whisper. God help me, I do. But don't you see? That's exactly what Derek was counting on. He knew if we spent enough time together, this would happen. He's been waiting for us to develop real feelings so he could use them against us. Jake frowned. How? Because now if we divorce after 6 months as planned, it'll look suspicious, like we really were faking it all along. But if we stay married, she wiped her eyes. If we stay married, I'll lose you anyway, because this isn't the life you wanted. You said it yourself, you wanted to expand the diner, maybe go to culinary school. Being married to me means board meetings and charity galas and a world that will never really accept you. What if I don't care about any of that? You will, eventually. And I couldn't bear to watch you grow to resent me. Jake stepped forward and took her hands. Victoria, look at me. She raised her eyes to his, and he saw everything their love, fear, hope, and resignation all tangled together. I fell in love with you before I knew about the board meetings and charity galas. I fell in love with the woman who tips 20% even when the service is terrible. Who knows the names of all the security guards in your building? Who still believes in fairy tales even though life has given her every reason not to? He squeezed her hands. I don't want to expand the diner. I want to sell it and open a restaurant with you. Something small and intimate where you can teach kids how to cook on weekends if you want. That's crazy, maybe, but it's also true. Jake cupped her face gently. The contract expires in 3 months. When it does, I want to marry you again. For real this time. Not because of Derek or the company or any inheritance. Just because I love you and I think you love me too. Victoria searched his face for a long moment. Then she smiled, the first, completely unguarded smile he'd ever seen from her. I do love you, she whispered. I love you so much it terrifies me. Then marry me, again. For real this time. Yes, she laughed through her tears. Yes, yes, yes. When Jake kissed her, it wasn't for show or for an audience. It was for them to people who'd found something real in the middle of a carefully constructed lie. 6 months later, they had a second wedding. This one was smaller. Just family and close friends, held in the garden behind Jake's new restaurant. Victoria wore a simple sundress and flowers in her hair. Jake wore the same suit. He'd gotten married in the first time, but this time his hands weren't shaking. Do you think Derek will ever stop trying to cause trouble? Victoria asked as they swayed to their first dance. Probably not. But I don't care. Let him try. We're not pretending anymore. Victoria smiled up at him. No, we're not. This is real. The realest thing I've ever done. And as they danced under the stars, surrounded by people who love them, Jake knew that sometimes the best things in life came from the most unexpected beginnings. Even fake marriages, if you were lucky enough to find the right person to fake it with.